we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means, on infiltration instead of invasion, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
All right, welcome to episode 142 of the Abuse Hour. It is I, your host, Coffee Long, coming to you unsupervised, unmedicated, and an unchecked threat to society. Indeed, I am caffeinated, Hebrew-hated, and in this rare instance, unhindered by a plan for content. I don't have a whole hell of a lot to talk about. I saw some things that really caught my eye, but then a few other things just sort of came up that I thought might be interesting. So I'm on my way to get a beating, catch this beating. So I thought I'd pipe up and hand you a little what for. What fucking for? So the first thing that came up this morning, that I was made aware of was in response to my coffee break that I put out yesterday, whereby I was talking about the leftist position that you and I might be a supremacist, and that deep down we have this need to rule over other people, but in fact it is actually they who take a kind of a more supremacist position by saying that, well, we got to import all these Pajeets because they're better at programming, and we got to import all these Mexicans because they're better at concrete or whatever. And if that's really your position, well then, is it not actually you who is the bunny ears supremacist? That was kind of my, my thoughts on it. It was really, it's just an observation, man. Kind of like the what if the roles were reversed kind of a thing. Or, the Democrats are the real racists, like the lefties are the real supremacists. And yeah, man, it's just an observation. However, I was not completely aware of how wrong I was. And Pepe Sylvia, my man in the chat, got into my ass and was telling me, like, no, man, it's not like that. You sound like Democrats are the real racists. Democrats are the real Klan. And no, man, you just approach this as like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing by my people, by my country, by my society, and that's where your money is. And you know what? Pepe ain't wrong. Yeah, the dude, he ain't wrong, man. That there's no need to slice the angles real smooth and try to explainify yourself, because like the man says, if you're explaining yourself, you're losing, dude. You're not winning this fucking argument. So really, it was just kind of an observation. But as argumentating goes, I think probably some of the best argumentating I have seen has really just been this spate of violent black crimes that have been foisted upon otherwise decent people. The murders, the beatings, the stabbings, the robberies, the home invasions, all of this that has been going on. Some of the memery that came out of it, where people are talking about, like, just the caption is like, I don't care about a leaked group chat. I don't care about some memes. And you got a picture of, this woman getting stabbed on a train, or this picture of this other woman getting set on fire on a train. Yeah, and people saying, hey, I don't care, man, about what somebody said in a private conversation. That ain't going to spin me up. That kind of thing, I think, really gets traction. That like, oh, really, you want to split hairs with me? You want to talk about these fine-tuned words? It's this thing, it's that thing. Dude, I don't care about that. I care about people getting stabbed on a train. I care about teens. Teens could be here, he thought to himself. I hate teens. Stuff like this, where there's 3 or 4 coloreds trying to break into some guy's house and he shoots one of them, and now there they are on TV. There's Mama on TV. Was he life really worth the television set? Was he life really worth just your Hyundai? You should have asked him that. You should have axed him that, whilst he was still alive. Maybe have his dad talk to him. Or don't. When he gets back from getting milk and smokes, have him sit down with the young man. Have him sit down with the teen and have a word on why that kind of behavior is a one-way street. It's a one-way ticket to nowhere. In any case, yeah, my position has pretty much been resolved to like, yes, I am the supremacist here. The whole world would work better if we were running it. Probably entire rivers would not be filled with shit and garbage. Yes, you would not have people just dropping dead in the fucking streets because of how sick they are just from breathing the air. You know, you probably wouldn't have that. Would figure something out. The problems we do have, we probably wouldn't turn it into this racket, this absolute scam of like, it's climate change, goy. You know, I'm going to actually need to keep on doing what I'm doing to get rich and outsourcing all the production to China. But you need a paper straw. That's what's going to save this. Come on, goy. Kick in a few bucks. This is what's going to turn this thing around. We wouldn't have that either. So, you know, really, the entire thing is just, it's this horrible racket, an absolute horrible racket. But the other thing I was made aware of, I digress a little bit. The other thing I was made aware of by my good friend Pepe Silvia was that not only was I wrong about that position, I was actually double wrong. Double wrong! Because I'm not really much of a holiday enjoyer. And I'm not a holiday enjoyer, man. I have not enjoyed holidays for a very, 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 very long time. I'll tell you, like, I don't... As you could probably tell, I like to keep a lot of my personal details private, and I try to keep it to a degree where even if somebody listened to every fucking episode, if my FBI agent listens to every single episode, and I'll get to him in a minute, if a guy listens to every single episode and writes down every little hint of a doxable detail that, you know, eventually they're going to have an entire picture of who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, and all of this, I try to minimize that stuff. But I will say that I have had familial obligations probably since before most listeners were born, a very, very long time. So every time is like as soon as Halloween comes and goes, like I don't even enjoy Halloween no more, man. It used to be that like you get a minute, you could go downtown, go early for one drink and then get the hell out of there because it's going to turn into amateur night. I don't like drinking on amateur night. But you get out there, get one cocktail or two, watch the sluts start to come out because Halloween is really just an excuse for young women now to like, I'm going to be the sluttiest slut I can and just tell everybody it's a costume. Like, what are you? I'm a cop in fishnet stockings. I am a construction worker with my tits jammed up around my chin. I am slutty penguin. I am slutty cat. Always slutty cat. Slutty cat you're not even trying at this point. I mean, you know, I wonder a lot of times, like maybe there's like a nuance here that like, Coffee, you're a dumb bastard. Those are actually prostitutes. Every woman dressed as a cat is actually a prostitute. You just go up and name your price. Didn't you know this? No, I didn't know that. I wonder sometimes if there are things like that, you know, that I was just unaware of. Anyway, yeah, Halloween, like go get a cocktail and then get back to the house, you know, before the lines get long and people start throwing up on each other. But I can't even enjoy that now, man, because as soon as Halloween gets here, I know that the holidays are just around the corner and it's going to be magic time and you're going to have to listen to weirdness. And I will tell you what, man, boomers, dude, they get older. Like the older they get, the weirder they get. And I mean, dude, I was sitting at dinner the other night. So I'm sitting at Thanksgiving dinner and I heard it was one line and it was this old woman is talking to somebody else and she's like, well, you know, you're the one that actually turned me on to grilled Brussels sprouts and also that show Yellowstone. I was like, what the fuck? I thought my brain was going to explode. I'm like, man, I have no business hearing that sentence out loud in public. Like what? Brussels sprouts and Yellowstone. Those are two things. Actually, you know, if you go to a nice enough place and you get like the roasted Brussels sprout with the vinegar glazed drizzle, it's very nice, very tasty, pretty good. But I don't need to hear about that. And if they're not here, what is this conversation about? Like, why are you saying you should have made those then and brought them? Everyone could enjoy them. But instead, you're just sitting here saying weird things. So, yeah, the weirdness intensifies, man. And you know that you have got just weeks, dude, because it's like the holidays have become like women's birthdays where it's not a day anymore. It's like a whole month. It's my birthday week. We're going to go to dinner this day, and then you can take me to lunch that day. And here's this thing I want, but you got to get me that thing early because I got to get a size right. And then I want this other thing. And like, dude, what is this, dude? You're not the queen over here. It's maddening. And the holidays have become that, where it's like you got people that are going to show up early for Thanksgiving, or you got to show up early for Thanksgiving, and you're going to go do this thing, and then there's going to be this other thing, and then these other people are going to show up, so we're going to kind of have like a second Thanksgiving, because they couldn't make it because there was another thing. They had to go to their other family's house first. So you've got like a couple Thanksgivings and a couple gets-togethers that you got to sit through. The conversations are going to be weird, and they're going to be awkward, and I don't mind, like it's going to be weird political conversations because obviously I'm comfortable with that. But what I'm not especially comfortable with is the blue screen of death that you get from these boomers when you point out the fucking obvious. When they're like, yeah, it's totally normal that you don't get to live in a neighborhood that you grew up in anymore. That's completely normal. A lot of people can't live where they grew up. Well, why not, man? Didn't you kind of live in the same neighborhood you grew up in, even in the same city? You can't even do that now. I couldn't possibly live in the city I grew up in. A lot of people can't. Like there's not a way if you had kids you could like leave your kids walking around out there. They'd be either gone or spirited away to Mexico or assaulted or robbed or whatever. It's not possible, but it just kind of the boomer talking point is like, yeah, but that's totally normal. What's normal about it, dude? How is that normal? Could you even get by without your retirement and your Social Security and whatever else? If you were trying to buy a house right now, could you? Well, yeah, I wouldn't buy a house right now because I already have a house. Yeah, I understand that, dummy. I'm not asking you if you had breakfast this morning. But, then moving towards Christmas is, I didn't even know until a few, maybe only a couple years ago. I didn't completely appreciate the way that our tiny-hatted friends got into the Christmas industry and wrote all of these Christmas songs and basically removed any mention of Jesus from the Christmas vernacular. Like I didn't really appreciate it. I grew up with these songs, obviously, like everybody did, and you're just like, yeah, that's just a song about a reindeer with a peculiar and suspicious nose that nobody really likes, but somehow comes in to save the day. I don't think so, but I was completely unaware of that. I actually saw a little list of, hey, look, here's all these Christmas songs, and here's the people that wrote them. I guess I want to say Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This was written by a guy named Marx, but they spelled it M-A-R-K-S, Marx. Because it probably, like, what's the difference if you're translating it from Cyrillic or something? You get your ass kicked out of that country. You come over here. How do you spell Marx? We spell it with an X. But I'm going to spell it with a K-S. I think it'll look more normal to people, and they won't be as suspicious when I write out my little song here. And that isn't even to say that I'm especially your church enjoyer, because really I'm not, dude. But I'm even less of a tiny hat enjoyer. And anything that those people are attacking, it's not that I have to support a thing. Like, I don't have to support church. I don't have to support Palestine. I just have to oppose these idiots because they destroy literally everything they touch. It'd be like that. Anyway, yeah, man, Christmas, holidays, I'm not especially a fan. And it sucks because, it should be a time to like, hey, why don't you take a wrap off, slow down a little bit, take a little time off work, relax a little bit, go see some family, this kind of thing. That doesn't sound completely unpleasant. But when it becomes like this dick measuring contest of like, well, you don't have enough, what are you, some kind of not holiday enjoyer? You barely have any decorations up. You need more decorations, Goy. You need to spend more on these gifts, Goy. How are you taking time off work because you got bills to pay, Goy? Like, you're not getting time off from the bills. You're going to still have to pay for that action. Everything else, we're going to try to push pause on that. So basically, you're just going to be playing catch up as soon as January comes around, which again, part of the tiny hat plan, I am inclined to believe. But Pepe did also mention something that, we're talking about eggnog, which I also enjoy, and we're talking about whiskey. And I think, if I remember right, like proper eggnog, I think, is made with rum because eggnog is more of an English concoction and whiskey is more, in many ways that we understand it, whiskey is more of a American concoction. And I guess, if you want to get in the weeds on this thing, in a very, very strict technical sense, you could call any distilled spirit made from grain and aged in a barrel, you could call this whiskey. But this is why they invented the bourbon rules to say what actually constitutes a whiskey and what actually constitutes a bourbon whiskey. So all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. And if you look at like your Scotch whiskey, if you look at it, you'll notice that it's not spelled with an E. And that's apparently like a big fucking to-do in the whiskey world, whereby Scotch whiskey, the difference between that and your bourbon or like your Irish whiskey or rye or whatever, the difference here is that they cut out this peat and they smoke it, like get it burning, right? And then they smoke the grain that they're going to use to make this stuff. They smoke it over this burning peat, and that's why your Scotch whiskey has that smoky flavor to it. So it's all very, very proprietary. Proprietary, say that 5 times fast. But it's all very proprietary, and it's a big, big to-do with the Scotch people and where you age it, how you age it, where you get your peat from, and all of this kind of thing. And then they also have the monopoly on the no E. We have no E. We have no E in our whiskey. So the difference as well with the Irish whiskey is then that as it is sitting there, as it's fermenting, if you like, they'll throw in some fresher grain as well. So that's why when you have your Irish whiskey, it's got a little bit more of a cereal-ish, like grain-ish taste to it, because they throw in some additional, like some fresher grain into that mix as well. So you compare that now with your bourbon, and your bourbon, the deal there is that it's got to be at least 51% corn. So that's why your bourbon whiskey is going to have like a sweeter, I don't want to say corn-ish, but it's going to have like a sweeter kind of a flavor to it. And something like Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, this is filtered through some kind, sugar maple charcoal. So it picks up a little bit of that sweetness, and it's kind of got its own distinct flavor. But, realistically, I guess if you're just getting shithoused mixing it with Coke or throwing back shots, it's not going to much matter, but you don't want to pay for some of that really spendy stuff. Where you're paying $30-$40 a shot or some kind of thing, just because you like the color of the label or whatever. You're not going to want that. But in any case, I digress. So bouncing back to the eggnog question, and again, you could do what you want, man. Put whatever kind of booze you want in there. I don't have a really proper and decent eggnog recipe. I'm going to look one up. Because, like, the buying of the stuff, you're going to get trash, dude, especially in the States. You're going to get, like, just corn syrup. Just dump some nastiness into your gullet and chase it with a shot. You might as well just do that. So I'll look up how to make a good and decent eggnog, and I'll put it out on the next episode. But I believe traditionally it's been rum. And your rum, this is more of an English tradition that came down with the British sailor kind of a thing. And rum, if you will, you got a few different varieties, man. And rum is actually a pretty good time. I think rum kind of gets a bad rap because of its association, one, with Puerto Ricans, and two, with shitty, sugary, tropical type drinks, right? So like your pina coladas and your Mai Tais and this, which are actually good drinks if you make them with actual ingredients and not like some shitty mix kind of a thing. They are actually really enjoyable drinks. But your rum, man, you've got a few different varieties there, and you can do a lot with this stuff. There's some really good stuff out there. Probably some of the worst rum, that, for my money, stuff that I just dislike beyond all measure, Bacardi, dude. It's like the Jose Cuervo of rum. It's shitty. It's mass-produced. It's not good. I think the only thing, maybe like, your white rum, like your Bacardi, just the clear shit, the very clear stuff, you can use that. Maybe if you're at a party or something and you're like, hey, I'm just going to make a big batch of, something and get it out there. Here you go. Then, fuck them, right? Use Bacardi. But there's a lot of other rums that are pretty tasty, and kind of the difference there is something like your Bacardi, your Puerto Rican rum. I guess it bears mentioning kind of the way that this stuff, the where, the how and the why that you have rum in the first place. So when you've got your Hebrews getting kicked out of Spain, a lot of these ding dongs go down to the Caribbean and they set up shop in the sugar industry. So this is where Alexander Hamilton came from the Caribbean, and then moved up here to be a pain in the ass in the States. But in the Caribbean, then, you've got this sugar industry. And as with any kind of an agricultural thing, when you've got extra grain, something you can do with it is make booze out of it. So this is why you would have, like in the States, you've got corn that you make whiskey with. In Europe, you would have, any of your other type stuff. You've got peat, you've got corn, you've got other grains. We can't sell, we're not going to do anything with it. I've got enough bread. Why don't we do something else with this? Let's make some booze. I like it. In Russia, you've got a lot of wheat, but you don't have a lot of time. So what do you make? You make vodka. I mean, really, in vodka, you can make that with anything. Pretty much anything that will create alcohol and distill, you can make booze out of this stuff. So with your rum, then, you've got this sugar industry, and your light rum, like your Puerto Rican type stuff, what happens here is they've got this, like a press, right? So they cut this sugar cane, and then they feed it through this press and squeeze all the sugariness out of it. And then however the fuck they make sugar, I don't completely know, but they take that juice and whatnot, and they go away with it, and now they make sugar with that. But all of these stalks, these cane stalks that are left over, is there nothing we can do with these? So this is where like the Hebrewness comes in. Like, what can we do with this stuff? Maybe we can make some cheap shit booze out of it. Yeah, let's do that. So they did that. Now you got like Bacardi. And it don't really taste good. It's got a kind of a distinctive rum flavor, but it ain't especially enjoyable. It's not that good, dude. It's not, if it's aged at all, it's barely aged at all. It doesn't have much in the way of flavor. It's not an enjoyable experience. And the sugar content alone will give you a wicked hangover. And that's not counting any and all of the sugar that they add just so they can make it palatable. Like the aftermarket, like, here's some sugar thrown in on top of it, right? So like something like Captain Morgan, and I know there's probably cats that like Captain Morgan. This is dog shit. This is like the lowest quality of booze ever, anywhere. I just don't. And if you work for Captain Morgan, fuck you. Right? Sue me. Sue Coffee at the Abuse Hour. You're defamating our product. Get fucked. You know what you did. Anyway, the deal here is that unlike, I don't know what you could call maybe an honest effort to get a good flavor out of a product, they just generate this shit. And then they throw in some sugar, some caramel color, some what the fuck ever is going to get it in your gullet. And then they hand it to you. Here, have this. So if you read the label, it'll say like all this shit is added. But it's not a food product, so they don't really got to tell you, here is what we did to it. But I'm telling you, here's how a lot of this shit goes. And that's why it's so cheap. Because it's mass-produced, it's done up quick, and then they throw in some sugar, throw in some color, and it looks like something that might be, quality. If you want to look for like some really decent type shit, then you go and you got to look, and you're going to kind of be able to tell, all right? But you want to look for something that's like aged, and then you can kind of adjust for taste in terms of what kind of rum do I like, because there is some that is like your Bacardi that's just made basically of leftovers, right? Kind of like whey protein, just made of leftovers. But there's other stuff that is made of like, this is like made from the whole thing. Like you grew sugarcane just for the purpose of, I'm going to make good booze out of this. So there's some Jamaican rum called Appleton Estates. That's not bad. It's more of like a sipping type rum because it's got a strong enough flavor where if you mix it with something that doesn't quite agree with it, or if you're not, I don't know, if that's not your particular cup of tea, you might kind of be like, this tastes a little funky to me. So like an Appleton Estates with Coke, right? That's going to taste like it's going to be very overpowering where you're like, I'm gutting this down, right? Maybe like a fruit juice though, like if you make, you're going to do up like a pina colada or something and you use like some pineapple juice and so on, and you're going to make something with this Appleton Estates, that might actually come out a little nice. Or you can use it to kind of sit on top of a drink, and it adds like a nice little flavor as you're drinking through the rest of it. some other nice stuff. There's one called Diplomatico, and that's another nice sipping rum. There's some called Zaya that I want to say it's Brazilian, but I can't remember for certain. But again, it's going to be aged a little bit longer, so they'll barrel this stuff up and age it. And it's just like whiskey, dude. Like whiskey, when it gets just distilled, there's nothing special about it. There's nothing especially great about it. It's the aging process. And that is where it pulls a lot of the flavor out of the wood. And this is where you get like your difference between your very, very expensive scotch and your really shitty scotch, like aged 5 minutes in a plywood barrel. This is where you get the difference, is in the aging process. So something like that is going to be very good. There's one called 10 Cane that looks a little bit clear, and I can't remember. I want to say it's from Trinidad, but it's called 10 Cane, and it is. I think it's one of these ones that's made specifically. Like we grew this sugar cane specifically to make this rum. And it's got a pretty sweet taste, but it's also light, and it's also not got added shit into it. So it's pretty clear. I want to say it's only aged like between 1 and 3 years, something like that. Not very long. But it's not aged very long. It's not got a lot of additives and nasty shit in it. It tastes light enough where you can mix it with whatever the hell you want. You want to mix it with Coke, whatever. You can mix it with whatever you want, and it's going to come out pretty nice. I'll tell you one drink that I learned to make, and this got passed on to me from some woman who tended bar in Guantanamo Bay, of all places. And it was called, I don't think she made this name of this up, but it was called liquid THC. And the idea here is it's a shot and a half of rum of your choice. I would use something like 10 Cane. If you got to use something like Bacardi, you can. Half a shot to a shot, depending on who you're making this for. If you're making it for a woman, make it extra sweet. Otherwise, if you're making it for a dude, and dudes like this stuff because they just, it doesn't taste like anything really, but it'll tear you up. Like a half a shot of blue curacao, which is basically just triple sec. And again, this is very sugary stuff, so you're going to get a hangover. If you don't want to use that, you can use, I can't remember the name of it. Orange liqueur, what is it? Cointreau or Grand Marnier. But for this, ideally, if you use Cointreau, it's not going to taste as sweet. Cointreau's an orange liqueur. Grand Marnier, again, an orange liqueur, but that's an old people drink too, Grand Marnier. Anyway, so if you really want like the full effect though, use blue curacao. This is just the same thing as triple sec. It's just kind of like an additive. It's the same exact taste, but it's colored blue, and it gives it a nice green tint when you put all this stuff together. Then use also a half shot of Midori, and then you're going to add probably about a shot and a half, depending on the size of glass you're using, of pineapple juice. Put all this stuff together, shake this shit out of it. The pineapple juice foams up a little bit. It always foams up just a tiny bit, but it makes for a nice drink. And it comes out like this really cool shade of green, which everybody really fucking loves. So put this, and then if you want, add just over the top. Now, don't do this before you shake it or things will go wrong. But shake it, get it into a glass, and then add over the top just a little bit of like Sprite or 7-Up. And it gives it just barely enough bite as you're drinking it that it makes for a real nice drink. People love it. But, dude, I used to make these and people would order them like in batches. Like, give me like 5 more of those. And like, all right, dude. But I mean, there's a lot of booze in this thing. So you can get a cat torn up on these. And this is where $100 tips come from, which is nice. But, that's a good time. I don't know why anyone would call it liquid THC. I think just because it comes out like this bright color of green. But whatever, dude. Maybe as spring comes on, this will be a fun drink. You can put it together. Or at a New Year's party, you can put this together. So again, it's like shot and a half of rum, half of blue curacao or triple sec or Cointreau, half of Midori, 1.5 of pineapple juice. Shake, pour, top it off with 7-Up or Sprite, and off you go. You're in business. So I'll tell you what, before I get on to anything else, I'm going to get in here and get a beating, and I will resume with you after that, and then I got some semi-interesting things to offer you, all right? So I'll talk to you in a minute. All right. Oh, God. All right, just got beat up. Gonna go get some snacks now, dude. I'll tell you what, man. I think it's a valuable thing to take a beating once in a while, like all the fucking time. But I think there's a thing where like maybe it's a natural thing to always remember yourself as the best you ever were, like in your prime, at your tip top, where whatever it is that you were good at, that you're like, man, I was the shit. But then as you move through different things and you've got, maybe you were physically strongest and maybe the point when you were the smartest or where you were the most connected or whatever, I think there's a tendency to want to think of yourself as always that, you're at that tip top, but, I got to there before and now I'm that way all the time, but in everything, and I think it's good to go and take a beating once in a while and kind of keep that reality check where it needs to be. Because I'll tell you what, dude, I get in here, and there's a kid in here that that when I started, this kid was a kid, and I would definitely like clown him, like horse around, the way that old dudes do with young dudes, and like, come here, you little shit, and mess around and toss him around and squish him a little bit, and this, and now is like this kid's like in his prime. He's like 19. Dude's been at this since you're like one of them dudes that like their mom's got nothing else for him, so they just drop him off, and that's where the kid is. And grew up beating guys up, and now he's like competitive. Dude, I got nothing for it. Like, kid squishing me, beating me silly, and I'm like, this sucks. And I'll tell you what, man, there really is nothing like a good solid dose of reality. I mean, I've been beat up by everybody. I got beat up by a chick once. I mean, I kind of let it happen too. But I mean, I've been beat up by dudes that were way smaller than me. I got beat up by a hipster once. Dude with a little handlebar mustache just clobbered me, man. And I'm like, doing my best, but what can you do? Anyway, yeah, man. So I got beat up, and now I'm gonna get something to eat. But first, I wanted to lay some action on you. I heard I've seen some of this stuff coming out on this what do you call it? This National Guard situation where this Afghan dude who was formerly connected to some agency-sponsored program, some CIA-sponsored program. That I don't remember what the acronym was. It was like Force ND03 or some kind of shit. And I have no doubt, if I'm remembering that right, if it was ND, whatever the hell, I'm sure that was a joke of like ND, negligent discharge, like accidentally shooting yourself or others, accidentally firing your gun off. I'm sure that's some kind of a gag, but then they were also calling it like Scorpion Force. And I'm like, man, just stop, please. That's too much, dude. And it's always silly. Just, like you could always kind of tell like who are the actual badass motherfuckers in a theater. 'Cause like you'd see like these little logos and these little names of units and like the Hell Dog Fighter Killers or whatever, and you're like, what are these idiots? And it's like some guys that put air in your tires or something. That's it. That's all they do. And not to demean that work or anything. If how am I going to go and drive and do a thing if I got a car that doesn't work, right? I mean, I need these people, okay, and that's well and good. But there's not a sense, in calling yourself the blood-soaked murderers or whatever, and you're a guy that hands out towels. That's silly. It's crazy talk. But you could always tell, like, who are the hitters here? And it's like Task Force whatever, right? TF Green, TF Blue. This, you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's the hitters, dude. Leave that alone. So this clown act, this guy, I guess, was part of this thing, this Afghan guy, and the way they were fronting it was like he was just part of this, like, hit squad or some shit. No, dude, he was a guy that ran the GPS. He's the guy that did like hey, take a left at the next intersection, this kind of thing. That was his bag, dude. That's all this guy brought to the table. But somehow or other, this guy drove from Bellingham, Washington, all the way to Washington, D.C. to shoot 2 National Guard people and then wander off, So he ended up getting rolled up. But in the aftermath, there's been a lot of drama about, well, what about these Afghans? And why weren't they properly vetted? And why isn't anybody properly vetted? And we need to start kicking people out and this. And I'll agree with that. Yes, they should have never been let in. And I said this from day one. I mean, from way back when they started letting people into Germany just wandering in here 1 million at a shot. And I was jumping up and down saying, this is a stupid idea. I've met these idiots. You don't want to live with them. Oh, you're a heartless bastard, Coffee. Oh, how can you be this way? These poor people, they just want college and medical school. What's the big fucking deal? And now you get what you get. But the drama, as it turns out, is, and I don't know how reliable this is, but this is something that's coming out that I think warrants a little thinking about. And not to say that it's an actual fact, just it's something to think about. And that is that they're talking now where you look at Google Trends and this, and you saw this with the Charlie Kirk thing, and now you're seeing it with this thing, where they're looking at Google Trends, and they're showing you this. I can't go and find it because by the time you see it, somebody goes, oh, it's been scrubbed already. Okay, maybe it has. I don't know. But they're saying now that, like, oh, Google Trends, I'm showing you as I'm doing it, that, like, these two National Guardsmen, I think it was, and I'm sorry if I can't remember this girl's name, it's like Sarah Beckstrom, I think, and the other guy is Wolf, Staff Sergeant Wolf. I don't remember if it was Adam Wolf, some kind of Wolf. But, and again, I'm sorry, I don't, somebody gets smoked, by some dirty Afghan, and I can't even remember their names. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize, whatever. But what the word is then is that these names, these people were getting Google searched from somewhere in Tel Aviv several days prior to this incident going down. Now, all I can really say is big if true, okay? Because if it is true, yeah, that's a definite indicator. I would be inclined to believe that after the Charlie Kirk thing, because people said the same thing about that, there were the same allegations that, Charlie Kirk, whoever that guy was that shot him, I can't remember the kid's name now, something Tyler Robinson. Yeah, Tyler Robinson, I think. That he was getting Google searched out of Tel Aviv and D.C., along with the local medical facility and the medical examiner, that these people were getting Google searched days before the incident. And that's very suspicious. Thing is here, I don't know that this happened. What I do know is that you're showing me this on a screen. You're telling me that this is what's happening. I don't know that that's actually, that it did happen. I don't know if someone's making it up so that I get pissed about a certain thing. I don't know that someone isn't making it up so that I can get pissed about a certain thing, and then they come out later and say, haha, that wasn't even real. You're pissed about things that aren't even real. Okay, that too. I don't know. But it does raise some questions about, one, are you this fucking stupid? It's possible that they're this stupid. One, to make the mistake, but two, to make the mistake again. Is it possible? I'm not completely sure. I don't know. Is it possible that someone is conjuring this stuff up for some reason or other? Also, I don't know, but it's also very possible. So when these kind of things happen, not to say that this did happen, but I'm saying when you're being presented this kind of information, I think that it is important to be wary of the idea that maybe I'm being shown this for a reason. Really, I mean, it's like, yeah, that's big if true, man. But it almost seems too good to be true. And I think when they do show you something like that, you have to stand back and say, okay, this is something that, I think you might be leading me down a little path here. And maybe it opens the door for, it's actually just those Israelis. It's not us over here. It's not all of these other factions. Because I did see something where they're talking about, it's actually, because we've been saying it for a while, dude, that, it feels like there's two kind of factions here. And these two different camps of coin clippers are kind of slugging it out for who gets to pull the strings on the U.S. Because, for whatever you want to say about the U.S., this is a very capable country. We are very productive. We are pretty fucking solid. So why would you not want to, when they do these things where it's like, yeah, we're just going to burn this place out and, bust the place out, move on to something else. But it's like they've tried it a few times and always Americans just keep kind of bouncing back. And after a while, it becomes like, maybe this place isn't so bad. Maybe we hang on to it a little while longer. But now while they're doing that, it's like they're thinking of, well, who's going to get to be in charge? And it's these two camps of the way I saw it described was between a Soros camp and an Adelson camp. So you can kind of see, and that does kind of make sense. That kind of jives with what we're seeing, where Your Trump is very much the Miriam Adelson. Oh, God, these people. And he's going to do their bidding, and he's going to fly with them to Israel and play ball with them. And then you've got the more globalist, globo-homo. I don't know what you would call it. Maybe if you were looking at it from the coin clipper perspective, that you could call it like big tent coin clipping, where it's like, no, let's invite, trannies and queers and Africans and Somalians and all of this, and we can manage all of this. We just breed them all together and shake them all up, and it'll all work out. And maybe that's a school of thought. But then there's another that's like, no, it's more this purist sidelock brand, or I don't even know what you would call these people, man. I don't, it's almost like there's not too much of a difference. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference, where it's like they are pretty much the same. They function pretty much the same. They're just all here to throw a rope around you and keep you otherwise occupied. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But in the meantime, I think it is, one, important to stay cautious about what you're shown and what you completely buy into. And two, to stay focused on exactly what it is we're about in here. And what we're about here is opposing these tiny hats. I mean, if I look out the window and it's raining and a tiny hat hands me an umbrella, I'm going to say no thank you. Because there's going to be some kind of a gag involved. I'm going to open this thing, and it's going to be filled with spiders or some kind of a thing that are going to fall on me, and he's going to stand there wringing his hands and laughing. And then maybe while I'm trying to brush spiders off of me, he's picking my pocket. This would follow, because you would say, like, well, why would a tiny hat why would he want to load up an umbrella full of spiders? He's just waiting for it to rain, man. Waiting for it to rain so he can do me a solid. And I'm not really interested in that. So, that, again, for my money, being careful of what you're told and always oppose these tiny hats. Just like the little Simpsons meme says, always do the opposite of what coin clippers say. I mean, you'll never go wrong. You will never go wrong. So anyway, I don't have too much else, man. I just wanted to get a quick something out. I think the holidays, dude, there's always a shortage of content. It sucks having no content. I remember before I ever did anything, before I ever produced anything, and I would always look and it sucks, the holidays, and they're going to give me some more refurbished, recycled content, about the thing of, tiny hats making Christmas songs, or I've heard this, I've heard all of it, I don't want to hear it again, give me something fresh. So I felt like, I do want to get something out. I had something else, dude, that I was going to hit on, and I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I'm going to short stroke you on this content, dude. I will try to get some more stuff out here in the immediate future. But for reference, dude, I do want to say, friendly reminder that if you're going to purchase some coffee, get yourself some Above Time coffee at AboveTimeCoffee.com. Put it in a cup, put it in your mouth. It's for you. And if you want to kick in, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link down here. You can now kick down $5 a month and join the Abuse Hour Goon Squad. Or whatever, man, because I'll tell you what, dude, I'd like to, on one hand, I guess I'd kind of like to be able to produce exclusive content. It's members-only content, only for the hardest to the hardcore. But, I don't know, to me, man, I feel like raising awareness of what these little sideloxes are up to, I think that's more important than your $5, dude. So I'm just going to leave the stuff for free. But you can check this action out anywhere dodgy content is pervaded, especially on the Telegram, t.me/The Abuse Hour and associated chat. But other than that, I will leave you to it. And until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon, keep your neck out of the noose. I have been Coffee, and these are my takes.